So as cool as it is that we're validating the error state and showing the user an error, wouldn't it be even cooler if we didn't actually allow the user to make a mistake in the first place? You know, increase that pit of success. I think that would be cooler. And so we're going to use controlled inputs where we specify a specific value for React to set it to regardless of what the user is typing. So let's go ahead and make that happen. So instead of doing this error state and everything, we're going to get rid of that error state. And we are still going to want this to lowercase version of the input. We just need to have some way to set that input's value to what the lowercase version is. So I can say event.value equals the value to lowercase. And here, let's get rid of these error states. We don't need that anymore. We're not going to show the user an error. We just won't let them do something wrong. And now I'm typing uppercase characters, and maybe that's because I did event.value and I need to do event.target.value. Okay, so now I do uppercase characters and it's all lowercasing. That's nice, awesome. And we could actually be totally done at this point, but this is not really the idiomatic way to manage this with React. With React, they typically want you to use the value prop, and that allows you to control the value programmatically and less mutatey. We're not going to mutate the input's value imperatively. So I'm going to make another use state here for the username. We'll have set username, and we'll initialize that to an empty string. So we want this input to start out as an empty string, which is its default behavior already. So now we're going to take this username, and I'm going to provide it as the value prop for our input. Okay, so from there now, in my onChange handler, instead of setting the value of the input directly, I'm going to let React do that for me. And instead, I'll call set username to set the username state to the lowercase version of that value. And I'll save that. And we come in here and I do all uppercase characters and I'm getting it lowercased automatically for me. So I no longer need to show the user an error message. I can just make it so that they format things properly and they don't have to worry about it. And another thing falls out of this pretty naturally as well, and that is because we're maintaining the username state here in JavaScript, we no longer need to reach into the forms elements to get the username input because we're explicitly setting what that input value is. And so instead of grabbing it from here, we just know that our username variable is the exact same as the value of our input. So we can just put the username in there and that'll work just as well. We can type in Kent Seed Odds, submit, and there it is. You entered Kent Seed Odds. So if you ever need to programmatically change the input value from what the user is typing, whether you click checkbox and that pre-fills some form input or whatever the case may be, doing a lowercase even though the user's typing uppercase characters, the way that you do that is using the value prop, and this is called a controlled input. One thing that I want to note about this is if you don't pass an onChange handler, and we save this, we're actually going to get a warning from React saying, hey, you provided a value prop to a form field without an onChange handler. And so that means that it's read-only. So why is it read-only? Well, if we're being so serious and saying, hey, React, I want the value to be this username, React is going to make sure that the value is always what you provide. And if you don't have an onChange handler, then you can't update that value. And so I'm typing in here and nothing's happening. And that's because React is ensuring that our value of the input never changes from the value that we passed as this prop. So we can do a read-only prop here, and that will get rid of the warning, but now it's a read-only field. That's not exactly what I want. And if you want to just have a default value to initialize it, but you don't care about onChange, then you can say default value, and then you could provide some default and save that, and now we're going to get some default right there. So depending on what your goals are, you're going to be using different props. But in our case, we're going to specify this onChange handler and the value so we can control it and we can be notified of when there are certain events that we need to react to.